And we are back.
Hello again, it's the Horror Guys. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies.
Got 4 movies and a short for you, just like always. Here we are on episode 102.
Did we see some good stuff this week?
We did.
We did.
We saw some bad stuff this week.
We saw some okay stuff this week.
We covered the range.
Yeah.
Covered some really old stuff, and we got a couple of really new things. So yeah, we got it all this time.
Yeah, we do.
Well, let's see. This time we have, what do we got?
The Island of Lost Souls from 1932.
1932. Is that like silent or something?
It was not.
Black and white, though.
Black and white. They hadn't invented color yet.
Okay.
And it's actually not the Island of Lost Souls. It's just Island of Lost Souls without a the.
No thes, yes.
No the. It's actually the Island of Dr. Moreau.
It is,
the
yes.
first movie version of it, I believe. Was it the first movie version?
Well, I don't know. I think there may have been a silent.
Oh, there was a silent
one.
one.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, take that back. It wasn't the first, but
it's the first major.
It's the first talkie one. The first
Yeah.
one with big stars.
The first one we're going to recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to move a little bit ahead in time.
The science fiction thriller, 1957's The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Smaller, smallest.
Teeny small.
Then we'll take a minute out to watch a short little film.
Piggy.
Yeah. And then we'll move into modern times. We'll watch the sci-fi horror film Annihilation from 2018, which we wanted to see at the time and just sort of never got around to it.
Kind of wanted to see it at the theater and didn't get around to it, and then wanted to see it on cable and didn't get around to it. And finally, we got around to it.
Yeah. And then the other one here is, I think it was Shudder. One of those streaming services has The Cleansing Hour from 2020.
Or 2019. It's one of those where it was
Made
released
in
overseas first.
Yeah.
And then, actually made in 2019, released in the U.S. in 2020.
Yeah, you can't really always go by IMDb's release dates because it depends on where and when and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, before we get going, this fine podcast is brought to you by
Us.
The Horror Guys book series. We got The Horror Guys Guide to Universal Studios Shock Theater, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Actually, not Creature from the Black Lagoon. And many, many other ones made it into Shock Theater. And then we've also got this follow-up book, The Horror Guys Guide to Universal Studios Son of Shock. And that's where the Black Lagoon creature goes, along with many, many other good horror films. Lots and lots of Boris Karloff in that one.
Now, if anybody else wants to sponsor us, we're willing. But until then, we have to sponsor ourselves.
Yeah. And if you like your horror in color, we've got the Horror Guys Guide to Hammer Horror Films, with 69, I think it was, different horror films from Hammer. Most of which had Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in them, it seems like.
Heavily starring, yeah.
Or if fiction is more your thing, check out Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Hey, we wrote some short stories?
We did.
We did.
They're very short stories.
Lots of them.
Yeah, I think each book has, I believe, 13 stories.
So
Lucky 13.
check them out.
Yeah, and while you're waiting for your books to arrive,
You should watch The Island of Lost Souls.
you should.
From 1932, black and white.
Directed by Earl Kenton, written by Waldemar. Is it Waldemar or Valdemar? I think it's W, but I think you pronounce it Valdemar.
I'm going to go with Waldemar.
Yeah. Waldemar Young, Philip Wiley, stars Charles Lawton, Bela Lugosi, Richard Arlen, hour and 10 minutes, back when the horror movies were short and still good.
And H.G. Wells was still around when this came out.
Yeah, that's something you don't really think about.
Which is kind of weird to think about. But yeah, he wrote, when was it actually published? 1800s.
Now that I don't know.
And you think way back, and like, well, he was still alive, yeah.
Did Arthur Conan Doyle ever see any Sherlock Holmes movies?
Boy, that I do not know.
Yeah, I don't know when these things were done. Bram Stoker died just not too long before the first vampire movies. So it's kind of hard to believe when you get back in time far enough that some of these ancient classic authors were still alive when the movies were made.
Weird to think about that.
Dr. Moreau book came out in
1896.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you're 30 something
36
years
later or so. Yeah.
But did he like the movie?
He did not.
He did not. Okay.
No, he didn't approve of it from what I heard.
They butchered his work.
That's what he thought, yeah.
Writers for 150 years have been saying the same thing.
And it does take some liberties. There is some differences.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot happens in the book.
Have you read the book? I've never read the book.
I have, yeah.
Would the book make a good
Moreau,
movie?
It would make a different movie.
Uh-huh.
I think it would be less horror, a lot less horror, and more sciencey and philosophical. Science fiction, the morals of right and wrong. A lot happens in the book after Moreau leaves the scene. I mean, usually that's like the climax of the movie and everything turns to poo-poo. And, and then he leaves the island right away or whatever happens, right away. Mm-hmm. A lot happens after that. He stays on the island and is there with the human animals as they devolve and watches their gradual devolution of which ones survived.
Do they start out like almost completely human?
Yeah.
Like
in the movie. Yeah.
Well, in the movie they look like monsters and animals mostly. They look much more animal than human.
Well, no, they're still recognizable that something's not right. Except for the girl. The girl was his prize work.
Right.
His gem that she really looked human. The rest you could tell something was like, these guys aren't right. Yeah.
All right. So, did you like it? Do you think?
Yeah, I liked it. Okay,
it was all right for what it was. Yeah,
for its age, and I mean, surprisingly well made for a 1932 movie.
Dated, but really good for at the time.
Yeah. Decent special effects and pretty good makeup.
Much better than some movies that came later.
Yeah.
Well, we begin. A ship at sea rescues a man floating on a small raft. They nurse the man back to health, and his name is Edward Parker, and he was on a ship that sank. This ship is full of wild animals in cages, and Montgomery, the doctor aboard the ship, helps him, and he acts very secretive and looks kind of shifty. They send a telegram to Ruth, Edward's fiancée, explaining where they're headed. The captain has heard rumors about Dr. Moreau, the man who owns the island to which they are taking the animals. So he owns this island, and he has ordered tigers and lions and all kinds of weird animals.
And then there's the crew, as you're about to mention.
They're a weird-looking crew.
They look a little off.
So Edward Parker notices one of the men on the ship, I say men in quotation marks, has pointed hairy ears. They deliver the animals, and the captain throws Parker in with the animals and leaves him with Moreau. Parker, Montgomery, and Moreau sail back to the small island. The other men on the boat are unusual looking, to say the least. They arrive at the island, and Moreau scares off the creatures that are standing there with his whip. He swears Parker to secrecy and takes him to his house. "Strange-looking natives you have here," comments Parker.
Yes, aren't they?
Moreau wants to show Parker to Lota, the Panther Woman. And that's what he calls her, the Panther Woman. All right, well, let's see.
Okay.
Well, he wants to see what her emotional impulses will be. He leads Lota to Parker's room and introduces them. Moreau explains that she's Polynesian. That's why she looks so strange. And the only woman on the entire island.
Although she doesn't look,
Polynesian.
Well, she doesn't look Polynesian either, yeah.
She's strange acting.
She's strange acting,
yeah.
But she looks completely human.
Yeah. They hear screaming coming from the House of Pain. The what?
Say what?
What?
Yeah.
Well, Parker rushes to investigate, but Lota tells him not to go. Moreau is vivisecting one of the natives. They run through the jungle straight into a native village. There are a lot of men-like creatures there, but they're all terrified of Moreau. Moreau shows up and he beats the men into submission. He cows the men. He makes the sayer of the law recite the law. What is the law?
Are we not men? Oh, okay, what's it? Oh, you actually typed it up? Okay. Not to walk on all fours. Not to eat meat. Not to spill blood. Are we not men? His is the hand that makes. His is the hand that heals. His is the house of pain. Very much a religious indoctrination.
Yeah.
Moreau basically invented a religion with him as God to keep him in line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Moreau explains that he's found a way to accelerate evolution. The so-called natives on the island are, in fact, all evolved animals. He's taught them to talk and live more or less like civilized people. Do you know what it means to feel like God, he asks. Moreau is fascinated by Lota, and he wants to know how close to a real woman she will become with Parker there. Of course.
The implication being, literally.
Yeah.
He wants them to do it and see what happens. Will she get pregnant?
But you can't say that in 1932.
Yeah. They really beat around the bush, but yeah, that's what he was getting at.
Yeah.
It was interesting how they did that.
How will she behave with a real man around?
Uh-huh.
Of course, he's planning to leave in the morning on the boat. The next morning, the boat has been sunk, so Parker can't go home. What rotten luck.
Oh, darn it. Fiddlesticks, says Dr. Moreau. I guess you'll have to stay.
Meanwhile, Ruth asks the captain what happened to Parker, but he's not very forthcoming. The captain does tell the consul where he left Parker, and the consul sends a rescue party. Back in civilization, they're starting to look for Parker.
Yep.
Back on the island, Parker and Lota start getting close. Maybe they won't want to be found. Lota has claws. She's reverting slowly. Parker figures out what Lota is, and he threatens Moreau, who explains that Parker can't leave without his help. Moreau explains to Parker that his goal was to get Lota to mate with a human and bear children. Oh, they did come out and say it.
Well, more or less, yeah.
This would prove that she was a real human, evolved past her animal origins. Parker punches him in anger. Moreau wants to burn out all the animal from her. We'll make her completely human. Montgomery is getting a little soft on Lota as well, and promises her that she won't go back to the House of Pain. Ruth and Donahue show up on the island, alone on a rowboat.
And this is where it diverges wildly from
Everything
the
we've
book
seen,
and every other movie version.
Yeah, there was no Ruth in any of the newer movies.
Yeah, they don't show up for rescue like that, yeah.
They see strange creatures, and the creatures see them. They find Moreau, Montgomery, and Parker. They all sit down to a civilized dinner, and then it's bedtime. So, yeah, just welcome it all in.
Yep, here we go.
One of the creatures, Oran, breaks the bar on the window and gets into Ruth's room. See, Lota was the only woman on the island.
Now, there's another one.
He wants an experiment of his own.
Are we not men?
She screams, and then Oran runs off. Montgomery knows that this was part of Moreau's plan, so he gives Parker the key to the gate. Moreau tells Oran to kill Donahue, which he does. The Sayer of the Law accuses Oran of breaking the law. Oran explains that Moreau told him to do it, which gets them all riled up.
Contradiction.
Yeah, don't kill unless I tell you to.
But he's the giver of the law, who says, do not kill.
Contradictions.
Yeah.
Well, they examine the body of Donahue, which is obviously quite human and quite dead. Men can die? He can die. Law no more, shouts the Sayer of the Law, in as best as Bela Lugosi can say it.
And suddenly the peasants are revolting.
Moreau finds himself in trouble when they attack. They take him to the House of Pain. The others head for the boat, while Parker watches for Lota to take her with him. Oran follows them, but Lota fights him to protect the humans. She kills Oran, but dies in the process, and the others get into the boat and escape. The end.
Happy ending, sort of.
Unless you're like one of the dead people.
Yeah.
Well, the monster makeup is pretty dated, but overall is effective, and there are many creatures in this.
Yeah,
Somebody worked overtime.
Big crowd.
Considering the number of monsters and the makeup, this must have been pretty terrifying at the time, and it's pretty intense. Remember, this is 2 years after Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People were freaked
No,
out
no,
by
no,
that.
it's not. It's
No.
several years before Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Wizard of Oz was later, yeah.
This is the year after Frankenstein and Dracula.
Okay, yeah.
Bela Lugosi was a big deal at this point. I'm surprised he didn't get a better role.
He was the box office draw.
That's Bela for you.
Yeah.
Take a big role and miss out somehow or another.
He needed a better agent.
Oh, yeah, he did.
No.
Well, this is the first Moreau film, and it's very similar plot-wise to the newer 2 films. All 3 films are surprisingly similar in plots, at least for the first 2/3 of each film. They all diverge a bit beyond that point. This story proceeds about the same way as the newer films until Ruth arrives at the island. That sets us up for the inevitable happy ending, which the 2 newer films manage to avoid. It's actually pretty good, and it's easy to see why they made so many remakes of this very basic story.
It's really a good story. The basic, the book and
All right. That was a good, long, epic movie. Well, an hour and 10 minutes.
Wasn't that long.
Now, you want to see something short?
Yeah, very, very short.
It's The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957.
And I had never seen this all the way through.
Ah.
I'd seen just clips and bits.
I won't swear that I've seen it. I've certainly seen the clips and bits as well.
Mm-hmm. Lots of classic clips and bits out there.
Yeah. Directed by Jack Arnold, written by Richard Matheson, stars Grant Williams, Randy Stewart, April Kent, hour and 21 minutes. So it's a little short on acting, but it's long in runtime.
A little short.
Short in talent.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty
Yeah,
good.
I thought it was really entertaining. The effects were pretty awesome.
Good enough for numerous sequels?
Yeah.
Incredible
And
Shrinking,
spin-offs,
blank, whatever you want to put here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and we saw Dr. Cyclops recently.
Yeah, a couple weeks
And
ago.
that was filmed quite a few years before this, and I thought this was where they had the groundbreaking effects on the shrinking man and the somebody teeny next to somebody normal size, and the way they could do forced perspective and giant props and things like that. But Dr. Cyclops beat them to this by
And it was
quite a few
surprisingly
years.
good, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Cyclops was, and yeah, I hadn't realized that happened so many years before.
And I don't. Is this one black and white? Yeah,
Yeah,
this
it
one
was
was
black
black.
and white,
Dr.
yeah.
Cyclops was also in color, which
yeah.
I'd say between the two, Cyclops has got it beat. But this is probably the more well-known film.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this was very good, very entertaining. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grant Williams really did a good job in it.
We begin with Scott and Louise laying out on a boat. She goes below deck to grab him a beer. Huh.
Convenient
Hey,
timing.
woman, bring me a beer. And she does.
Oh, they're jokey about it, and it's not like a
All right.
yeah.
But he remains behind as a mysterious white cloud approaches. Soon he's covered in what looks like glitter. What? A glitter cloud out over the ocean?
That ain't right.
In 1957 with atomic bomb tests and stuff?
Huh. What could go wrong?
Well, 6 months later, Scott notices that his pants and shirt seem to be stretching. Did the cleaners do something to his clothes?
Must have been a mix-up.
He tells Louise to pick up a bathroom scale today. The doctor says he's 2 inches shorter and he's lost 10 pounds. People just don't get shorter, says the doctor. But
Well,
he is getting
He is
smaller.
getting smaller.
A little more every day.
Huh. That
The
ain't
doctor
right.
does x-rays with some time between them, and he confirms that Scott is getting smaller, but he can't explain how or why. The doctor sends him to a research lab, and they do endless tests on him. They find that his cells are rearranging themselves. They think it may have been an accidental exposure to insecticide and radiation combined. Well, that's a screwed up mess.
It certainly is.
They remember the
That's some
incident.
bad luck.
Yeah. You get irradiated? No, that's not all.
Not you see, just the irradiation wouldn't have done it. Just the pesticide wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, well, they remember the incident on the boat and some exposure he had later to a mass tree spraying for bugs. So you can't just blame the Cold War nuclear test. You got to blame like the bug
Both.
spray and DDT and
Both
things they
combined.
had back
Yeah.
then.
Which is why it's not happening to lots more people.
Yeah, take 2 things. Well, time passes and Scott loses his job because they can't continue to pay him to stay home. Charlie, Scott's brother, suggests that Scott sell his story to the newspapers. He's now only about 3 feet tall, and he becomes famous as the Incredible Shrinking Man. Soon there are reporters swarming his lawn. The doctors come up with a serum that will keep him from shrinking, but it won't help him regrow to normal size. He gets depressed and goes out for the first time. He goes to a diner and meets Clarice, a little person who works in the circus. He starts to feel more confident in himself after talking to her, but soon finds that he's shrinking again.
And actor-wise, she was not a real little person. She
wasn't?
No, she was. She had the same special effects going that he did, but the waiter was.
Yeah, the waiter, he was in something. He was in a lot of things. Yeah, the little guy waiter. Yeah, that would make it right. That way they could do they could just have like a big table and chairs, and 2 normal-sized people could pretend to be small.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so he's shrinking again. Before long, he's just a few inches tall and living in a dollhouse in the corner of the living room. Louise goes out, but accidentally lets the cat inside the house.
Whoops.
There's a few good cat and mouse chase scenes, and he falls down the stairs into the basement. Louise returns and thinks Scott is dead, eaten by the cat. And he would have been, except he got lucky. Scott wakes up in a junk box in the basement and has to figure a way to get out. He tries to get food out of a mousetrap, but it ends up rolling into the drain. And then there's a giant spider. Life is rough when you're small.
And when you're teeny small, yeah.
Eventually, the water heater bursts, and Charlie and Louise come downstairs, but they don't see Scott.
Because he's teeny and he's floating on a pencil.
Yeah.
Floating on the junk.
Instead, they unclog the drain, and there's some good going down the drain.
Suspense.
Almost going down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he almost gets swept down. Yeah.
Charlie and Louise then pack up and move her stuff out. She's gone forever now. Scott wakes up after they're gone, and he decides his only chance is to kill the spider. So he devises a trap that doesn't work. Eventually, he gets still smaller, and he accepts the inevitable. How will it all end?
But the drama of him trying to survive and get water to drink and enough food to survive on. There was some leftover stale bits in the basement that he was up on a shelf, and his struggle to get up to the shelf and the spider there in the way. And, it was good stuff.
Yeah, a lot going on for something with no villain. It worked out pretty well. It was very entertaining. The forced perspective and camera tricks are really good here, and it's really the main gimmick behind the entire film. Considering the age, the special effects are really good. Sometimes it's done with a screen, sometimes with giant props, and sometimes it's done with forced perspective, and it usually looks pretty realistic.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it was
Both
impressive.
this one and Dr. Cyclops were way better than movies like Tarantula or the Giant Praying Mantis movie.
Yeah, they were.
Neither of those two look realistic at all, but the ones with people did.
Mm-hmm.
The spider and cat battles are the only real action or horror scenes in the film, and they work pretty well overall. There's not really much the way of a plot other than watching Scott deal with his situation, but it is interesting. There's also some kind of halfway explanation for the shrinking that involves insecticide being mutated by radiation, and where that radioactive cloud came from, we are never told.
Probably some radioactive test and it
Yeah.
drifted
Out in the ocean in 57, that happened to everybody.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
The ending is pretty open-ended. They didn't want to have an unhappy ending after all his heroic struggles, but there really wasn't a way to have a happy ending either. Ambiguous was the best they could go for.
And
Did he die?
We don't
No,
know.
not exactly.
Not exactly.
He didn't get better.
He didn't get better either. Yeah, it's kind of weird how it ended. I think I almost like how the book ended better.
There's a book?
There is a book. There was a book first.
You've read all these.
I have, yeah.
You should have like the horror guys book podcast.
And in the book, they had a daughter too, who they had to eventually keep him away from the daughter because she didn't understand and was starting to treat him like a dolly, and handling him roughly, and they had to say no, and so he ended up getting separated from his daughter and effectively losing her. That was kind of sad, but yeah, the book had kind of a different ending that wasn't as ambiguous.
All right. Very cool. But yeah, very, again, a little on the dated side. It's not going to hold up against The Hobbit. But mostly the same technology, though. Just black and white.
Yeah.
Then we move to a short film.
Piggy.
It's called Piggy from 2020. Watch it on YouTube. We got a link in the show notes to it. Directed by Carlota Pereda. Stars Laura Galan, Paco Hidalgo, Elizabeth Casanovas, Sarah Barroso, Maria Villapuig, and Jorge Alorza. And I'm sure I mangled at least one of those.
And we apologize if you're listening and we've mangled your name there.
Yes. Yeah.
It is an international film.
My Spanish is limited to the Taco Bell menu.
It has some subtitles.
And I watched this whole thing. I didn't even see the subtitles. They were so small.
You didn't notice the
I
subtitles.
didn't notice them right away. Second viewing, yeah, it is subtitled.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's not important. You can get the whole gist of the thing without the subtitles. Runtime, 13 minutes, 26 seconds. Link on YouTube. So, Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty great.
Not what you were expecting in any way, was it?
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little bit of spoilers here. Well, a lot of spoilers here, but yeah, it's got a twist. Not exactly a twist. It just doesn't go the way you think.
And kudos to the actress for putting herself out there like that.
Putting herself way out there, yeah. Yeah, Sarah is an overweight teen that lives in the shadow of a clique of schoolgirls holidaying in her village. Not even her childhood friend Claudia defends her when she's bullied at the local pool in front of some unknown man.
And what a pool. Oh, that was green water.
That was nasty.
That was a nasty pool, yeah. Severely neglected. I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, green leaves and crud floating in it, yes.
But she swims, yeah.
And then her clothes are stolen, and Sarah must get home wearing nothing but her little bikini. And the long walk home will mark the rest of her life. And that is just basically, I just stole the YouTube description for that.
You thief.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it much better.
It's right, though, yeah.
Yeah. All right, now, let's see, my commentary on this is, there's bullying, body shaming, and assault here.
So trigger warnings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can see people getting triggered by that one. But I think the scariest part of this video is that someone would swim in that filthy water. Actually, there are at least 2 levels of horror. The bullying and the man in the truck. It's very well acted.
Oh, yeah.
Well shot, looks good, and you can follow the whole plot even if you don't read the subtitles, even though it is subtitled.
Yeah, the cinematography was really notably good. You know, interesting shots and close-ups on different strange things. And
Still, the ending pays off, and I think even Sarah appreciates the irony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, it was.
Highly recommend this one. YouTube, check it out.
Piggy. All right. And a somewhat more modern, much bigger budget film, Annihilation from 2018. Written and directed by Alex Garland. Stars Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson. Hour and 55 minutes. Link in the show notes to pick up a copy at Amazon. And what'd you think?
Kind of mixed feelings on it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
Okay.
Kind of middle of the road. Maybe a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it had issues. I science-wise and character-wise. Some things
I hesitate to put a number on it, but I was not thrilled either.
Yeah.
I have no desire to see it a second time.
Yeah, once was enough. Once was satisfying. I don't regret seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're just stealing my words right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible.
Natalie Portman is always wonderful.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah, they were fine. They were all fine.
It just wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
You never quite knew what was going on, and even after it's over, you don't quite know.
And there was a lot of not really knowing what was going on.
A lot was going on.
Oh, yeah, and some of it was explained. But
sort of.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Lena is in a quarantine room when we start. The man asks how did she survive all those months when they only had food for 2 weeks. She says she doesn't remember any of it, but everyone else was dead. We then see something fall from the sky and hit a lighthouse, and credits roll.
So she's apparently survived and telling the story.
Yeah.
And the lighthouse, the thing hitting the lighthouse is where events really started.
It did.
Yeah.
Lena is teaching a basic biology class to medical students. Her boss invites her to a garden party, but she has to stay home and paint the bedroom. She's still mourning her husband Kane after he's been dead for a year.
Well, assumed dead.
Yes.
He went on a mission and didn't come back.
And the boss wants her to...
So it's unresolved as part of her problem, too.
Yes.
She doesn't have closure. She assumes he's dead, but... Yeah. Well, guess what?
No body.
Yeah, but guess what happens?
Well, the boss wants her to let it go. Suddenly, Kane is standing there.
Yeah.
And she's really surprised to see him.
Yeah.
Because, she knew he was dead. She just didn't want to admit it. And, well, he's not.
Oscar Isaac.
He can't explain where he was. He doesn't remember. All he remembers is being outside the bedroom. And just sort of appeared there.
Suddenly there.
He says he doesn't feel well, and then he starts spitting up blood. On the way to the hospital, soldiers force the ambulance off the road and take him, and then they sedate Lena. We then shift to Site X. Lena wakes up in a cell, and she meets Dr. Ventress, a psychologist. She wants to know about Kane and what he said, but Lena doesn't know anything.
He didn't really say anything.
Where you been? I don't know.
I don't know. How'd you get here?
I don't know.
Yeah. What happened? I don't know.
It's like questioning a 5-year-old.
Yeah. He was very hazy and, just didn't know.
Yeah. They look out the window, and the landscape has changed dramatically. Ventress explains that it happened 3 years ago, but they still can't explain it.
And when they built the building, it wasn't that close.
Yeah.
So it's been expanding.
A lighthouse was surrounded by a shimmer, which is what they call the thing, the shimmer, and it's expanded since then. It's some kind of alien incursion, or maybe it's a natural event from space. They know very little. They've evacuated everyone under the pretext of a chemical spill, but it keeps on growing. Kane came back from there, but he's the only one.
Yeah, they sent a mission of guys in.
More than one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she mentions that people go in, but they don't come out again.
Ever.
Yeah.
Until now. Mm-hmm. Now, Lena isn't allowed to leave because she knows too much. That's okay, though. She wants to stay there now and be part of the project.
And going back to that, though, they send these teams in, have sent teams in, and the teams don't come back.
Poorly organized.
Well, but, couldn't you put somebody, strap a harness to them, put a cable clipped to that harness? You could have a heck of a long cable. And, at least send somebody in, a good distance. And then, if, haul them back out,
it's like exploring caves. You leave a trail or something, a rope behind you.
Yeah. Have them go in, 100 feet and come back, because when somebody walks into the shimmer, and you see that later, they effectively, you can't see them anymore. It's like a barrier almost. We'll have somebody go in, take 10 steps in, come back out quick.
I think the people who made the movie didn't think about this as much as you did.
That was a point I had an issue with,
One of several, yes.
Go in 200 yards, come back, see what happens, tell us what you see. And, at least say, it's weird, and the plants are weird, and the animals are weird, and, it gets weirder.
It's weird in there.
Yeah.
All right, now go back and try again.
Anyway, Kane came back out. So, carry on.
Well, we flash back to Lena and Kane before his final mission. It's all very mysterious, and he won't tell where he's going. She makes 3 new friends on the project, Anya, Cass, and Josie, and they're planning on going into the shimmer soon.
Because we need another expedition to go in there to,
get lost, yeah.
Well, yeah.
The theory is that something in there either kills the people who go in or drives them mad and makes them kill each other. Well, I'd volunteer for that.
Oh, yeah, good fun. Yeah.
People go in, they never come out, except for Kane, who is now comatose. Lena tells Dr. Ventress that she wants to go in as well. So the 5 of them go in, armed and well prepared. The edge of the thing looks like a big soap bubble. Inside the shimmer, Lena wakes up in her tent. None of them remember anything after walking through the barrier. The lack of rations indicate they've been in there for 3 or 4 days.
But they don't really remember it.
How much food you got?
Weirdness.
It's about this much. They don't know exactly where they are, but the lighthouse at the center is on the ocean, and they know the ocean is to the east, so they head that way. They run into a giant alligator that's been mutated just like the flowers. Lena explains that you can't crossbreed between different species, but it looks like that's what's been happening. The alligator is like half flower or something like that.
And the flowers are like multiple species of flowers growing on the same plant.
Yeah, they're all kind of merging.
Things are getting all mishmashed.
They find a building with a video of Kane cutting open one of the other soldiers. There was something squishy alive inside the soldier, growing and replacing his organs. They then find the actual soldier growing into the walls.
He's kind of become part plant, part fungus, part something.
Yeah.
Very dead.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
That night, something breaks through the fence. It's a giant bear that eats Cass. They argue about going back, but eventually continue on toward the lighthouse. They find unusual animals and plants with humanoid shapes. It's like Edward Scissorhands started making human sculptures out there.
Mm-hmm.
They find unusual animals and plants with humanoid shapes. They figure out that the shimmer refracts not only light and radio waves, but DNA as well. It's trying to duplicate life, but it's getting it wrong.
And there's no communications that are out. They can't reach the satellite or anybody by radio.
No radio.
Yeah, nothing works right. And if we could just go into another point that I had an issue with. Okay, they're trekking. They know this lighthouse is the center. So they're trekking miles and miles.
Where
and
is
days
a lighthouse located?
On the shore.
On the beach.
Or very close to the shore, yeah. Why not come in by way of water, on the boat, on a water? Wouldn't that be way easier than walking for miles and miles and days when you don't know what's on the land and what animals and so forth?
How long would this movie have been if they'd have gone by boat? 10 minutes?
I don't know. Maybe the fish would have, eaten them all, but...
Or fly over and parachute into it above the lighthouse.
What? You can fly above the shimmer?
It's just a bubble.
Yeah, it's a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were issues with this.
Yeah, it's not like Under the Dome where you just couldn't get through.
No.
You can walk through any which way you want.
Yeah.
Well, that night, Anya goes nuts and ties up the other three. She thinks Lena has been lying to them about Cass's death. She says she can see her fingerprints shifting. She hears Cass outside, but it's really the huge mutated bear that calls for help, in English, in Cass's voice.
And
that was interesting.
That was interesting and horrifying.
Yeah.
I would
help me, help me, says the bear.
Yeah, and it doesn't look right either. I mean,
it's a weird
mutated,
bear.
horrifying bear, and that was kind of chilling.
You hear it all night. Help me, and you know what it is.
Yeah.
It kills Anya before Josie shoots it. Morning comes, Ventress goes on alone, and Josie sprouts buds and becomes a plant, as one does. Lena continues on toward the lighthouse, and she finds crystals and huge glass trees growing on the beach. When she gets to the lighthouse, she finds bodies and another video camera. It's like a video game where you find a video camera with, a message every so often.
Mm-hmm.
When she gets to the lighthouse, she watches the video, which shows Kane questioning his own existence. Then she watches him kill himself with a grenade. And then his duplicate walks into the frame.
Oops.
Oh, that wasn't him.
It wasn't Kane that came out. Oops.
Lena then sees the big hole in the floor, and of course she has to crawl in.
Because that's the true source.
She finds Ventress in there. Ventress explains that it will grow until it encompasses everything, resulting in, say it,
Annihilation!
She then spits up a psychedelic light show and becomes a big cloudy eye-light thing. What?
Trippy.
Lena looks into it and it becomes her. She runs out of the hole, but then finds the new thing that looks just like her, sorta, kinda, waiting for her on the other side. And they have a long stare down, and then they have a long fight, and it goes on entirely too long, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
As it continues to look more and more like her, Lena hands it a grenade and runs away. As she runs outside, she can see that the grenade still didn't kill it. It does, however, set the lighthouse on fire. It crawls back into its hole, setting everything down there on fire as well. The crystal trees begin to burn, as does everything connected to the creature. Back in the interrogation room, Lena explains that it wasn't destroying everything, it was making something new, but she doesn't know what. She goes to see Kane, knowing that he's not the original anyway. They hug, and both of their eyes shimmer. Ooh,
so she was the duplicate.
She was a duplicate too, yes.
Yeah, and didn't know it, or did know it.
Yeah. Well, the goal of the mission was to investigate the lighthouse where everything began. Why couldn't they have just taken a boat in and had a 5-minute walk to the lighthouse?
Why?
There you go. The film takes place 3 years after everything started with the lighthouse, and there's no visible explanation of why they couldn't have done that before. They know that there's going to be weirdness inside the shimmer, but at no point does anyone put on rubber gloves or breathing masks or anything like that. One of the theories is there's something inside that makes people go insane and kill each other. Well, that could
Wouldn't
be
you-
airborne particles
Wouldn't
or
you want
something.
to walk in wearing one of those biocontamination suits?
Hazmat? Absolutely.
suit, yeah.
Rubber freaking gloves.
Or at least gloves and a mask or something.
The very first scene inside, they're down there picking at these mutated plants, holding it in their hands, saying, "Look at this plant." Really?
Does this flower smell funny to you?
All right. Well, Lena is always touching the gross plants with her bare hands. Gloves probably wouldn't have helped, but they made no effort at all to prevent any kind of contamination, not even hazmat suits. Well, this is more sci-fi than horror, but with mutant alligators, human mutations, aliens, and body horror, it definitely has its feet in the horror genre.
Oh, sure does, yeah.
It's very slow-moving, but it's all right. It's decent enough. Again, I don't regret watching it, but
Yeah, it's okay.
it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, was kind of what everybody else said about it at the time, is why we didn't rush right out to see it.
Kind of mixed reviews from what I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so I am on various horror groups on Facebook, for Shudder and just general horror things. And one of the ones people are raving about, like the way they raved about Hereditary and raved about Midsummer, they're raving about The Cleansing Hour.
The Cleansing Hour.
And you see that pattern there.
Well, I see why they raved about Midsummer. I really liked that.
I didn't.
You didn't, I know. Yeah.
It was boring. And Hereditary.
Hereditary had its moments, but...
It had a moment.
Okay, multiple moments, but I didn't see what the Raven was about, with it.
I think both of those movies appealed to people who don't really watch horror films.
Maybe.
I mean, I was so bored with Midsummer. I mean, it looked good. It was nice scenery and stuff. Mm-hmm. The acting was fine, but nothing happened until the credits were rolling at the end.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
All right, 3 minutes before the credits rolled at the end. Nothing happened until that final scene. You want to watch Midsummer? Fast forward to the last 10 minutes. You got this. And then rave on Facebook about how wonderful it is.
Wow. Harsh in it.
Okay, so this one is The Cleansing Hour, which I didn't hate as much as Midsummer, but I don't quite understand the raving either. It's not that great.
And it kind of went on too long.
Yes, it did. Oh, yeah, very much so,
variations
yes.
of the same thing over and over.
The first half hour was really good.
But then,
And then the rest of it should have been 10 more minutes. This would have been a good 45-minute film. As it is, it's an hour and 34 minutes. Written and directed by Damien Levesque and Aaron Horowitz, stars Ryan Guzman, Kyle Gallner, and Alex Angelis. And, again, streaming, I want to say Shudder, but I'm not absolutely sure.
And again, it's got that...
I need to start making notes of that.
It's got that whole exorcism...
basic thing. The point, yeah.
Yeah, which I still always have an issue with, because we're to believe that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing, in control of everything, but only if you say the right magic words while sprinkling holy water and hopping on one foot and spinning in 3 circles and ringing a bell. And then he'll do what you ask.
If you're a wizard throwing a magic spell, you got to say the right magic words to make it happen.
I guess.
But that's not the way religion and God is supposed to work.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, you're not doing the magic God's supposed to be doing.
But it does in these movies, yeah.
Because without ritual, there's nothing to see. Yeah. That's why they don't go to the lighthouse in the boat.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing to see.
There'd be nothing to see if it just, a snap of the mighty fingers and fixed it all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you liked it?
Yeah. This one,
Yeah.
It was, that fundamental issue I have with exorcism movies, and it dragged on too long, kind of repeating the same thing too long.
You didn't like it so much.
Overall, not so much. I mean,
okay.
I don't fault the acting and the special effects or anything like that.
It was a good concept.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting concept, having it online like that.
Yeah, okay, so we open up on an exorcism, with a man tied down to a hospital bed and a priest dripping holy water on him. You've seen this before. The demon makes weird things happen, and he laughs at the priest. It's all very dramatic and exciting. Then the man screams and is freed of the demon. Well, the whole thing has been streaming online, and the show is called The Cleansing Hour, and the priest does this every week. "And cut!" shouts the director. It's all fake. Every bit of it.
It's just an internet show.
It's his YouTube channel, basically. Watch me exorcise demons every week.
A live channel, yeah.
But as the problem is always with YouTube, they still don't have enough followers. Father Max whines that he has 50,000 followers and still can't get Twitter verified. And you know, if there was any part of this movie that I can sympathize with, it's that.
Not being able to get Twitter verified.
I have had 60, 70,000 Twitter followers on my account for like 8 years now, and I still can't get the little blue check mark.
And you're totally a real person.
Oh, at Brian Shell, at 80coin, and at Horror Bulletin. 3 Twitter addresses you should follow.
And we are real, but none of them are verified.
Yeah, none of them are verified. Thanks, Twitter. And hey, we got a YouTube channel too, but we don't do fake exorcisms. Like and subscribe. There, now we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway.
Stupid Twitter verification. Well, he and his whole crew go out drinking after the show, and he likes his fans, especially the ones he takes home and sleeps with.
How priest-like.
Huh.
Yeah.
Never happened to me on Twitter. I'm lucky to get a comment on Twitter. He has a weird vision with his latest girl, and it freaks him out. Producer Drew's actress girlfriend, Lane, wants him to consider quitting and doing something else. So the producer is Drew, and he's got a girlfriend who thinks the whole idea is stupid. Drew, on the other hand, is loyal and doesn't want to quit. We see some strange people or creatures moving around outside the studio, and we also see various people around the country getting ready to watch his next broadcast in a few minutes. He has quite a diverse audience.
Yeah, an audience, yeah.
The actor for tonight's possession was eaten up on the way to the studio, literally, so Drew asked Lane to play the part. They start the show with 257,000 viewers. She asks for help, and Max begins the exorcism. Exorcism in quote marks, because this is all fake. Cameraman Chris has been acting sick all night, and now he throws up. And he sees something terrifying and runs out. Max interrogates the demon in Lane, and then it knocks him down. Oops.
Oopsies.
She's really possessed.
It's all fun until it becomes a real demon.
She sets one of the crew on fire, and it goes really badly for him. Social media goes crazy, and Max sees his viewer count start to spike. The demon gives Max 49 minutes to perform the exorcism, or the demon will kill Lane and all of them. Taunting him, she makes him strip naked and do the hokey pokey while standing in broken glass. At about that point, I think YouTube would cut your feed.
This wasn't YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
They don't mention. It's a nameless streaming service.
Yeah.
Well,
Amazon Web Services would cut him off.
Yeah, most web services would.
Yeah.
Nudity isn't tolerated. Yeah.
He's not Pornhub. Drew thinks the demon wants Max to tell the truth about the show, and obviously Max isn't going to do that easily. He finally comes clean about his lies and the fakeness of the show, but that's not enough for the demon. She bites off several of his fingers, and Drew has to admit that he's been taking money from the show. Drew thinks they need to confess some more. We get several flashbacks to Mac and Drew and a Catholic school and how terrible that was for both of them. The viewers are in the tens of millions by this point. You know, has anybody ever called you on the phone and said, hey, get on YouTube and watch this live stream?
No, nobody ever has.
No, I don't think that's a real thing.
You keep saying YouTube, but it's not really YouTube.
Well, generic streaming is probably even worse.
Yeah.
Hey, go to this website, look at this weird thing.
Well, they don't name it by brand.
Yeah. Okay, so then the demon says it wants Max to hang himself right there on the camera. He confesses much bigger secrets than those about his show. Finally, Drew figures out the name of the demon, Amon, and looks up the proper rites to exorcise it. Before they get the chance, though, it demands one more confession.
And then it makes a confession of its own, too.
It does, yes.
Surprise!
And spoiler, in the end, Max finally does get Twitter verified.
Yay!
Yeah.
Happy ending.
Happy ending, yeah. Well, this looks really good. The set looks like what you'd expect from a mid-level streamer, and the characters feel right as well. Max is a scumbag in need of redemption, and Drew needs a wake-up call to see it. Lane is the innocent here, and she's the one in the most danger as well. The gore and special effects are really good. There are some tense scenes here, but there's a little bit too much focus on the confession aspect of the situation. The bulk of the film is about Max and Drew being forced to confess various bad things they've done in the past. The final ending, on the other hand, was really well done, and she did tell them repeatedly to disconnect the live feed after all. But, yeah, it's alright. It's alright.
So, hopefully we left that intriguing enough where you'll want to see that.
Yeah, we didn't tell you a lot there.
Yep.
It's spoiler-free as we can make it without spoiling it. Well, that is our show. Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrorguys.com for news and horror updates. Read all the reviews. Generally speaking, lately, several weeks before we make our podcasts. We are so far behind.
We are getting a little behind.
We need to start doubling up again.
Yep.
Leave a comment on the podcast or to contact us. Again, to mention that Twitter feed, it is at Horror Bulletin. It's still our older name, Horror Bulletin, all one word. Follow us on Twitter. We constantly are mentioning our new reviews on there and things. Get ready for next week, where we'll be watching some more classics. What do we got?
Another Amityville movie. It's Amityville, The Evil Escapes from 1989. And Not So Fun Holiday with Mother's Day from 2010.
You'd wonder why we didn't save this one for actual Mother's Day, and that's because it's got not a doggone thing to do with Mother's Day.
It doesn't, yeah. There's a couple of mothers in it. Yeah, so that's, yeah. And then, we mentioned Dr. Cyclops.
We haven't done the podcast on Dr. Cyclops. We hadn't actually done
the podcast on Dr. Cyclops.
That's how far behind we are.
We saw it and we reviewed it, from 1940. So we're going to actually talk more about that one next time.
Yeah.
And then there's an ancient Korean movie.
Actually, it's a modern Korean movie.
No, it was a documentary film way back.
Oh, okay.
Called Monstrum. And it was actually released in 2018, but we know how many hundreds of years ago they filmed it.
Yeah.
It's a documentary.
Full color, looked great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ancient Korean movie.
Yes.
Well, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.